Structuring spectra in electroacoustic music, pitch compression. Most sounds that we hear in music are not the single tones that we hear as the pitch, but consist of many different tones that merge into a single entity. Those different tones are the spectrum of the sound, something that is usually perceived as the tone quality or timbre. We can't really speak of structuring them in instrumental or vocal music. Electroacoustic music is the first music that allows such a possibility. Most instrumental and vocal sounds consist of harmonic partials, also called overtones. These are integral multiples of the fundamental or lowest frequency, which is perceived as the pitch. These sounds can also have unrelated short components called transients because of their short duration. Transients may be inharmonic, but are often just brief bursts of noise. Components of a sound that are not harmonically related are inharmonic partials. They have no specific relationship with the fundamental. Researchers, notably Dennis Smalley, have described a continuum of sounds from the sine tone, a single frequency with no overtones, to a pitch sound with a harmonic spectrum, to sounds with inharmonic partials, to noise, which can be viewed as a mixture of all frequencies. Noise is sometimes described as colored, depending upon the weighting of frequencies in the mixture, but this is not an area I wish to explore here. The harmonic series is the span of overtones above a single note. The first overtone is the second harmonic partial, and it is an octave above the fundamental. The third is an octave in a perfect fifth. The fourth is the second octave. The fifth, 2 octaves in the major third. The sixth, 2 octaves in the perfect fifth. The seventh, 2 octaves in the minor seventh. And the eighth is the third octave. The higher you go, the closer together the partials become. In elementary music theory, we learn that the first 6 partials create a major triad, as if to justify its importance in tonal music. The first 7 outline a dominant 7th chord, probably the second most important chord in tonal music. But the minor triad is horrendously dissonant with the chord of nature, so that line of reasoning cannot describe why also it is so important in tonal music. The intervals created by the ratios of the overtones are pure, but they are out of tune with the notes of equal temperament, which is a compromise to allow music to be transposed to any key without sounding out of tune. Because the octave is at a ratio of 2 to 1, equal temperament has to do with logarithms to the base 2. But these could not be understood in music history until mathematicians discovered logarithms. Structuring harmonic partials in music is analogous to structuring timbre, and there is a lot of electroacoustic music that deals with that idea. There are at least 2 important ways to do it: by focusing on individual overtones, which I have called overtone music, and by using filters, which is basically what most musical instruments in the human voice do. But here I want to focus on inharmonic partials, so I will leave those ideas to another time. Inharmonic spectra. Since inharmonic spectra can be anything, we might think that this is an unsolvable issue in creating sounds. My concern, however, is in creating a coherent relationship between the components, albeit not a harmonic one, and there are many ways of doing this. One way would be fractional harmonics. Another is frequency modulation, which people who use the Yamaha DX7 synthesizer should know about. The method I want to concentrate on here, though, is pitch compression, which I'll describe in detail. Pitch compression is achieved by mapping all of the equally tempered pitches of a musical passage into a different interval, and then using these frequencies as components of the sound. Depending on the interval, this process can either compress or expand the intervals. If the notes used span an octave and the interval of compression is a perfect fifth, then this would compress them into 12ths of a perfect fifth. If the interval of compression were 12th, or an octave and a fifth, then it would expand them. On the other hand, if the notes comprised 2 octaves and the interval again was an octave and a fifth, then they would be compressed. I would like to illustrate the process of pitch compression through a composition of mine, Inharmonic Fantasy number 4, written in 2015. This work uses pitch compression into a perfect fifth, 7 semitones. I will illustrate the process with some examples, and then I will ask you to listen to and view the work on Vimeo, because the video artist Sylvia Pengilly, who is also an electroacoustic music composer, has created a beautiful video for this piece. For the first example, I will play a short passage in just sine tones. All the notes are in 1 octave. This is a very simple passage lasting just 18 seconds. Notes enter 1 at a time, 3 notes to a measure, with a maximum density of 5 notes. The second example illustrates the pitch compression process applied to a single note, the first one in the piece. Each of the notes that were in the entire passage just played are faded in the same rhythm that they appear in the original passage, only they have been squashed into the interval of a perfect fifth. The third example illustrates the process applied to each of the notes in the opening passage, transposed to the pitch that they originally occurred in. This passage is what opens the composition itself. The entire passage lasts a bit less than 2 minutes. Now let's take another example, our fourth. This spans 3 octaves and the notes are very low. That is a problem when all the frequencies are compressed into a perfect fifth, because our ears do not hear such low notes as well as higher ones. It lasts about 13 seconds. The fifth example applies the pitch compression process to just 1 note, an E flat below middle C. The note lasts the same 13 seconds as the fourth example. The sixth example plays the entire passage based on the fourth example. It lasts about 53 seconds and it occurs about 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the piece. One more set of examples to finish this explanation. The original passage, example 7, is just 7.7 seconds long, and the notes span 4 octaves. The next example, 8, applies the pitch compression process to just one note, and A below middle C. But in this example, the inharmonic frequencies are attacked individually instead of fading in and out like the other passages. Example 9 plays the entire passage where this occurs. It lasts about 17.5 seconds, and it occurs about 4.5 minutes into the piece. Now I'm going to play the entire composition, including the video by Sylvia Pengilly. However, I would rather that you listen to it on Vimeo because that is a higher resolution than what I am showing here. The URL is shown on the screen, and the piece lasts about 9 minutes. In summary, pitch compression is a great way to create interesting sounds that occupy a specific time and place. In this work, each sound is a kind of fractal of the passage in which it occurs. Fractals are a hot topic in mathematics, art, and other areas where patterns are repeated in different ways and dimensions in space. But a more complete discussion of them is not what I'm concerned of here. Part 2 of this presentation will describe another method of creating inharmonic partials, frequency shifting.